Hey guys, it's Magna back here for some more Community Starcraft 2. Today's lesson is going to be about scouting and PvP, and namely to try and sniff out what your opponent is doing so you can build the right counter to it. And we've talked about scouting several times already, so I don't think we need to say too much before jumping into this game, so we'll just go ahead and do it. So we are in the game here, and the game we're looking at is Genius versus Grubby. Genius is the red Protoss, Grubby is the blue Protoss. Grubby, a really good friend, really good guy. I think we're mostly going to be watching from his perspective. And you kind of have to take into account that Genius is known to be kind of a gimmicky player. So Grubby especially needs somebody that needs to scout out really well in this matchup and kind of figure out what his opponent is doing in order to counter it properly. So Grubby is going to go ahead and start up a normal PvP build here. Both of them doing the exact same thing. It's just, you know, gateway on 13 supply roughly, double chrono on the Nexus. The first bit of information you really need to know about is what's your opponent's gas timings. That's not overly critical, considering it can be even hard to read, even if you do see them go down right then, because the amount of miners that they have and when they actually fill them all up is going to tell you totally different things. So there's not a whole lot you're going to know right away. One thing I would have liked to see both these players do is actually scout around for proxies first, because that can sometimes alter how your reactions are going to be. So, for example, let's say Genius is going to go for a Stargate. If he didn't scout around for a proxy, and there was, say, like a proxy 1 gateway right here, and they just went like Zealot, Stalker, and attacked him, and he had a Stargate building, he'd probably just be dead. So that's one thing you really want to do. They're both kind of scouting around for proxies now. As you can see, Genius is kind of rallying around his natural just a little bit to see if there's anything here. But I would say, after your double gas, which you're probably going to want in PvP anyway, I would scout around maybe just inside your base for proxies. Especially on ladder, you're going to get proxied quite a bit, so you need to know about that, but the reactions won't be too much different nowadays. You don't see it very often in pro games, so I thought I'd just touch on it really fast. One option to stop a lot of these proxies, especially if it's in-base proxy 2-gate, you can just get a mothership core out and make a stalker, and then just send all your probes to his base and kill his probes so that he'll have useless zealots you can micro against. Proxy 1-gate is a whole different beast, though. You really just need to know about it and build the units to counter that, which is basically the same units that they're making and just micro better. So that's the first thing you probably want to look out for. But both these guys scouting around here, and of course we won't know a whole lot about what each of them is doing until their cybernetics core finishes up. So both of them sending a probe into their base. So from the perspective of Grubby, you're going to head in here. You're going to want to see if they have both gases, which is very normal for them to have. If they only have one gas, that's a huge red flag. One gas is either going to mean a really big gateway attack or a really fast expansion. And both of those require different information, so you need to do some follow-up scouting to figure out what it is. But this case, and in most cases, they will just have double gas, and you just need to wait and see if you can see their tech come down. So in Grubby's case, he's going to just drop something right away, which is a Stargate. So from Genius's perspective, he's going to come in here, and you want to scout around as much as you can, because if you just got lazy and said, okay, well he has double gas and I'll just leave, and you don't see this Stargate, then you don't really know what's going on. So this is an interesting matchup right now. From Grubby's perspective, he just wants to get this Stargate out so he can produce a really fast unit and get into Genius's base and see what's going on at a time where you normally wouldn't be able to see with a probe, because the probe is going to be denied by a mothership core, a stalker, something like that. So coming in here for the first time is just to make sure that there are double gas, so there's nothing crazy going on there, and to see if you can spot any tech. So let's see if Genius does come in here far enough to see this. And yeah, now he does. He should click on the building, or at least know what it is. Now Genius can start to prepare for fighting against this. So what can come out of a Stargate, we ask? And of course we all know the answers, having played Protoss. It's either going to be an Oracle or a Phoenix. Void Rays are extremely rare and don't really make a lot of sense as far as making a Stargate this early. And of course it would not be a video without my phone making noise, so you can hear that in the background. So Genius knows that it's a Stargate, and if you know those two types of units are going to be something that comes out here, then you can... Geez, my phone is just going nuts. Somebody just decided to send me like 50 messages all at once. So if you see a Stargate like this, you should start to think about how you're supposed to counter this. Genius makes a really weird play though and goes for a Robo. I think this is in response to seeing the Stargate. He may think, you know what, I saw his Stargate, he might cancel it and do something else like DTs in hopes that I'll be doing something like Blink. So this is several levels deep as far as this robo being placed down. So on Grubby's end, again, he's just going to get the Phoenix in here, get an Oracle in here, whatever he's going to produce off there, and try to figure out what's going on. More importantly, he's going to see Genius's tech and be able to react to it. Now, if Genius knew that this Stargate was finishing, something more like a Twilight Council would make a lot more sense. You could go into Blink, maybe punish them for a really greedy Phoenix build or something like that. So those are the kind of reactions you're going to want to look out for and start to plan for how can I beat this, because something like Immortals are never going to beat anything like a Phoenix play, or at least unless you have some other solution to deal with that. This is going to be an Oracle, by the way, and Genius really needs to know about this. Notice the diligence in Grubby scouting out everywhere to make sure there's no proxy buildings. That's something we're going to see in the next replay. And that is, your opponent could proxy something like a Dark Shrine out on the map, and if you don't know about it and you don't build detection, or you don't keep your Oracle home in this case, then they could deal a lot of damage with that when otherwise they shouldn't be able to. So, scouting around with your Mothership Core, maybe with your first Stalker, you could even just resend another probe to look around the map and see what's going on. It's never a bad idea. So, now we're going to see the Oracle come out, and Genius, interestingly enough, went Observer first, thinking that he really needs to see what's going on inside Grubby's base. So he's just going to make that Observer and stick on his Robotech, but at the same time he did make a Twilight Council, so he can research Blink, and he'll be okay against this type of play, this type of Stargate play for quite a while. So moving forward, the next thing you really need to know is, what's my opponent doing on two bases? Generally in PvP, there's not going to be a lot of times in which you're going to see anything other than Robotech later into the game, but sometimes you will see things like a lot of Void Rays. So the ultimate tool for scouting for Protoss, again, Genius does have that Observer in here, and he should have seen what's going on. Yeah, it's right here. So Genius can continue to scout and rescout to make sure that this Stargate is not producing anything, and see what the follow-up tech is. Now, as the game goes on, Blink is going to be less and less useful, so you're not going to see as many Stalkers most of the time. This doesn't have a lot to do with scouting right here. It's just a little bit of a poke to see what's going on. Really shouldn't do too much, I don't think. So both these guys are doing Blink right now, and this is just to kind of soften their transition. During the mid-game is when you're going to want to start look out for your opponent. They can usually either make Void Rays, which is pretty rare, or they can do something like a Mortal Archon, which is pretty common, or they can do something like Colossus, and you need to have an answer to any one of those three situations. So if you just kind of do whatever, then it's really not going to work out, and in all three of those cases, staying on Blink and a lot of Stalkers throughout the game is really not that great of an idea. So let me just skip past this just a little bit. So it's to a point where it starts to stabilize a little more, so I can tell you, or rather show you what I'm talking about with the mid-game tech. Now, this is one other interesting thing. This Observer for Genius is mostly telling him when Grubby is taking his natural expand. That's something that I missed earlier. But the biggest thing is that you can only start to tech and start to make higher level units when you know your opponent is not going to be attacking you anytime soon. So if your opponent, obviously he's backed off, which you can see with the secondary Observer. The pylon is empty over here. And you can see the army's back at home with the Observer back here anyway. So Genius knows that now this is the time where I can start dropping a Forge. It's a time where I can start producing Robotech to start to deal with later stages of the game. Upgrades especially are something that's really big. Typically you won't do anything more than one Forge, so I would just stick with one Forge for now, unless you find some really interesting thing where you think double upgrades are worth it, but most of the time they're not, because Zealots and Stalkers and stuff, the things that usually get most of those upgrades, die to Colossus and Immortals so fast it's almost not worth mentioning. So yeah. So yeah, on Genius's front, he's just making sure that he's able to start teching up, and once he sees that the army is back at home, he should really waste no time starting to get into the next level of tech, which is going to be things like a Templar Archives if he's going to go for a Mortal Archon, or a Colossus Bay. He's going to do Colossus. Obviously the Forge needs to come down from both these guys very soon. So that's what we should see in the next little bit. Moving forward here, there will occasionally be these times where you have this awkward army of Blink Stalker Immortal, and again, the usefulness of Stalkers really gets worsened as the game goes on. So there's that Forge we were expecting, and you will see the next follow-up tech here from Genius as soon as possible. But what both these guys really should have is some method to continue scouting here. So the method for Grubby is that Oracle, and he continues to reveal the army of Genius so that he knows the composition. And if anything weird is going on, like if he sees a Colossus walking out there, he's going to be like, okay, I know you're going Colossus, so I can start to counter that. with you know, maybe a lot of Immortals. Maybe you can start mixing in Stargate earlier, such as Tempest. Lots of different plays like that. But Genius, of course, still does have the Observer over here, so he can see anything that's going on here from Grubby. And in this case, he might actually see this go down, but this is going to be a double Robo. And double, or no, that's just his first Robo, my mistake. So at least he'll know it won't be anything like Void Rays at this rate, but this is, just as I was talking about that, there's not much of a purpose of having double for it, but Genius just goes ahead and does it. So this is again that weird point of PvP where neither player should really be able to kill each other. It's just blink Immortal for the next little while. Most of the time just to try and see if you can get ahead in the Immortal game. The Stalkers, again, are going to be worthless as the game goes on, so getting rid of them just to trade them for Immortals or for probes, stuff like that, is not a bad play. So from this point on, all you really need to know is what's my opponent's tech, and we'll just keep going until that point. This replay's kind of long. Or we'll just keep going until the point where both of them start to really show their hands quite a bit. So the other thing you can do that again we've just kind of glossed over is make a couple of sentries and keep them mixed into your army. Because stuff for Guardian Shield is something you always want in a battle, but Hallucination throughout the game is going to be really good as well. And in Genius's side, he's going Colossus. As soon as Grubby knows about this, he may make a decision, or he may just blindly go for his own tech choice as well. From Grubby, this is also looking a bit like Colossus, and Genius is making his second Twilight Council for some reason. That's got to be a mistake. So, continuing on here, I think both these guys do Colossus, but we'll have to see. Yeah, there's the Colossus Bay from Grubby as well. So both these guys have kind of chosen their tech, and from this point on, you really know how the game's going to play out. Once these guys get to 4 or 5 Colossus, maybe even more than that if they both realize that they're both going Colossus, then you're just going to see a big Colossus fight, and whoever wins that fight is going to win the game. So, from this perspective, if you're behind on the Bay timing, for example, if you're Grubby, or if you're behind on the Colossus count, this wouldn't be a bad position to cancel this Colossus Bay and actually switch into Tempest instead. And those are kind of the advantages that you can get if you can make this work. So, I just thought I'd kind of go through a quick little gloss over of a really generic PvP game that you're going to see a lot at high levels. We'll jump into the second replay here and kind of garner more information as we can. Of course, I have like a million replays. This is all I've been doing recently, so this is why it's taken me a little longer to put out videos. So just go this way and grab it here. So this one's going to be Hero versus Rain, and anybody that knows Rain in PvP knows that he likes to proxy a lot. So that's a very big concern that you need to know about, if you know your opponent, of course. But proxies are always a very real thing, and we'll show you how debilitating it can be to kind of have your proxy being scouted out. So Hero in particular is going to do a really diligent job of following up and making sure that he's aware of everything that Rain is doing. So we'll show you how to look out for those proxies as well. So this is mostly going to be scouting from Hero's perspective, so we'll kind of keep an eye on him throughout the remainder of this game. So both players opening up Gateway. Probe coming out here for Rain right now, and this is going to be his proxy probe. He's actually going to proxy his second pylon. So if this were a circumstance like I was saying before, if you scout right after your double gas, Hero would get down here and there would actually only be one pylon in Rain's base, and that's a big tell that there's something going on the map. So that's one thing you also want to check out for with your first probe getting there that we didn't mention before because it wasn't as relevant. But make sure they're on double gas and check their pylon count. If you have one more pylon in your base and you're not, messing up and made an extra pylon by mistake, then there's something weird on the map, and you should probably follow up with your probe and make sure you know what's going on. So for Rain's case, he is proxying something over here, and Hero should be getting on that in just a second. So his probe is coming out right now, and I think this goes straight to the main. Yeah, so this goes straight to the main, and look at Rain's main base. There's still only one pylon here, and you want to make sure you're not being fooled and check around the base and look for pylons around here as well. But Hero should pick up on this. So coming in here, he's in here now, and he sees another pylon going down. He says, okay, I should have another pylon going down as well if it's not already started, and here it is right now. You can see it ghosting. And yet again, this is another straight to Stargate build. Or rather, this is from Rain, I'm sorry. So Hero needs to really get on top of this and kind of react to it as soon as he possibly can. But coming in here, he sees that there's one pylon and two pylons, and by my count, I should have 3, so there should be another one around here somewhere. So we'll watch the actions of his probe, kind of looking around, getting suspicious, and he doesn't check over here, which is a little bit lazy, but I think he figures out, okay, this is Rain, he's probably proxying something, I should really get out here and figure out what's going on. So immediately he starts scouting around with his Stalker, his Mothership Core. Look how much map information he already has for this early in the game. but he's sending out a bunch of his first few units, and he's sending his probe back to start checking the other only proxy location that could be that's not being checked right now by his other units. So he's going to see this, and he should know what's going on. So if you come in here, you should also notice that whenever you see something producing on here, if you let it play, I'll just let it play on slower, you can actually see the outline of the unit that's in here, and you can tell just vaguely that that's an Oracle. So back in Hero's base, he may have planned on going Stargate all along here, but the thing that makes sense is just to say, alright, well I know this is an Oracle, so I'll just make a Phoenix and kill your Oracle, and you won't be able to do anything. Of course, I'll have my other units at home here as well, and you really shouldn't be able to do anything if I know exactly what's going on and I can directly counter it. So you still do need to continue to follow this up, though, if you're Hero. So there's actually another proxy out on the map here that Hero needs to get clued in on, and he mostly just needs to figure that out for the sake of knowing what's going to follow up this Oracle. So this Oracle does nothing because he's able to scout this out, but that's not his whole plan. I mean, he could be expanding behind this, which he doesn't really know. He could walk in there anytime and find out, of course. Or he could just continue to re-follow up in here, and if he gets into the base and he sees there's only 2 gateways in the Stargate, and there's no reason for you to continue to produce anything else off the Stargate, I know there has to be something else going on. These are all different plays or reads that he could make to start to try to piece together what's going on here. But secondarily, he's going to have this Phoenix out, and considering he has enough Stalkers to push away this Oracle, this Phoenix could just go fly around the map and figure out what's going on. You could just send it on patrol here and see if there's an expansion, send it into the main, continue to loop it around. You might catch this proxy that's going on. So everything from Hero is absolutely perfect in terms of what he's getting done with his scouting. So the Phoenix is just going to rally back over here and double check that there's nothing else weird going on. He sees no Stargate production, there's nothing else proxied over here, and he's going to get fortunate enough to fly right over Rain's second proxy, which is a Dark Shrine, and he should have seen it. Yeah, he saw it right there. So the Phoenix does know what's going on, and Hero, of course, walking in here with his probe to try and see if there's an expansion down. So at this point, he knows everything that Rain is doing. There's a Dark Shrine on the way. He can produce an Oracle to detect any DTs that might come in. Rain's really not going to have a lot of units for quite a while, so he could probably drop an expansion, but he also knows that Rain doesn't have an expansion, so he needs to be a little bit careful about that as well. But seeing the probe down here should indicate that it is going down anyway, so Hero's just going to say, alright, well, you have way too much invested in tech that's not going to do anything, so I think I'm just going to kill you now. So Hero just walking across the map here, and considering he was able to be on top of every single tech decision that has gone on, he's been really all over Rain this game. And by the time that the Oracle rallies up here, he'll have more than enough to deal with anything that Rain should have coming out. So he's opting to actually attack here and keep his Oracle back at home. If you're on Stargate, you can make a second Oracle to detect in 2 different places. That's kind of one of the safeties of DTs. But at the same time, he loses Nexus because the Dark Shrine isn't done, and that's really bad. So he's going to actually have to cancel that. So yeah, this game, honestly, this game doesn't go on for too much longer because Rain is just so far behind after everything gets scouted. And of course, he just lifts up the DT and kills it right away. So Hero can afford to be plenty aggressive here and can afford to do basically whatever he wants because he knows all the tech that's on the way here. The next thing you have to think about is what's the follow-up after the DTs, and Blink is super common. Robo is also super common, but if he has DT, Stargate, and Robo on one base, then he's going to have like no units, and you can just go kill him at that point. So that's the importance of scouting around the map for proxies, and more importantly, scouting out on really kind of non-obvious information. That's just checking the pylon count and making sure that there's enough pylons here to actually make sense in the base. So I hope that helped out. I hope that gave you guys enough ideas to start scouting well in your own PvP games. After this, I'm going to start getting into more videos about just general situations in different matchups that'll hopefully answer a lot of stuff that you guys are looking for, such as unit compositions that you can use, I guess more so strategies that you can use, and also countering strategies from your opponents based on particular game situations. So we're going to get a little more in-depth after these videos, but they should be at least useful, and there'll be common things that you're going to see on the ladder anyway, so hopefully there'll be some good information coming for you in the near future. But in the meantime, check out our sponsor, which is sc2replaystats.com, and I will see you guys later.